Metric Motorcycle Madness presents VT1100C2 front brake pad replacement. Hey guys, Metric Motorcycle Madness. We're doing some quickie videos, poor quality today, because I just don't feel like doing quality videos right now. I don't really care. Bike week's coming soon, and I got a lot of shit I gotta do. But I wanted to put it out there because there's some videos that I haven't done on these bikes yet. Obviously. So we're doing a brake pad change, and we're also changing or bleeding the brake fluid with bleeding the brakes with new fluid. So this is gonna be real quick and simple. Come to the front caliper. You got two 12mm bolts that are attaching the front caliper to the fork. Once you remove those, you'll be able to drop this down and out of the way. Your pin hangers may be different than mine. This pin hanger on the bottom is a flathead. Spray this with some PB Blaster penetrating oil because these things heat up really bad on old brakes. If you get this stuck, you're not getting you're not getting the pin hanger out, because if you don't get that out, you're not getting the pads out of the caliper. I had to replace this caliper before. I'm sorry, I'm entirely wrong now. This is just the screw cap. Below that, you've got a little fucking hex wrench in there that sucks. I believe this is I don't know if this is a 6mm. No, it's smaller. It's probably one of those stupid 5mm. Looks like a 5mm, but we're gonna crank on that after, I think, here. So, yeah. Get some PB Blaster in there before you try pulling that. Make sure you get the, this was a 5mm, make sure you get that all the way in there. I accidentally left that towards the end and almost started stripping it out. That's alright though, because I have another pin hanger hanging around from the old one. I bought a new pin hanger and then it never came out, so I got a spare one here. Another really stupid design. They should just put a fucking bolt through this thing, not these little hidden threads. Once you get that, your pin hanger is going to pull out, drop that off, and I'm going to pull the caliper out, pull the pads out. So these are actually, as they came out, they're really not too bad. They still got a bit of life left in them, but I'm just replacing them because I want to make a video for you, apparently. These new pads, the only difference is they get a little hook here. It's the same. These are cheapo pads. They're fine. They sent me the rear ones, of course, and two sets of the front ones. I don't know why, but I'm assuming it was meant for a VT1100 that had two rotors and two calipers. I don't know which model has that. Maybe the VT1100C2. But now I got two sets of front brake pads, so, well, three, because those are still good, so fuck it. Yeah, anyways. These fell right out after I removed them from here. If they don't, there's just a spring here, and they'll pop right out, and you got a spring plate here. What you need to do before you go and put these pads back in, these pistons need to be moving freely. There's dust seals, or at least they're supposed to be, that sit around the inside lip of this, and they keep the dirt on the outside of the pistons from sucking into the inside. So what you need to do is these surfaces here and all of this, get all the old brake pad shit off of there. So get some brake cleaner. Make sure not to spray on your tire or any other stuff, and clean up all of this so when these pistons are fully retracting, you're not going to get all kinds of sintered shit getting in there and cause your pistons to seize up or leak. The other thing we're going to do after we clean this up, before we put the new pads in, to get them onto the rotors, a lot of the times you're going to have to compress the pistons all the way. To do that, you're going to have to use the old pads, which is kind of why I'm probably not going to use those again, even though they could be used. Use them. And we're going to use a C-clamp, or sometimes you can even use a valve spring compressor to get up and compress the pistons, but you don't want to mar these up, so you put the old pads in front and compress it with the old pad. That's going to backfeed fluid up into the brake fluid reservoir up top, so you're going to have to remove the screws on that, and the bar, of course, is going to have to be tilted up here so it sits flat and you're not using fluid. So, yep, we're going to do that now. All right, so once you get this relatively clean, obviously there's a lot of pitting and stuff in here I'm not going to be able to get rid of. You just want to get the majority of that. We can even get up in here a little bit more. And then we're going to place the pads in. Clean up the brake rotor with some brake cleaner. Just don't spray your tire and your fucking paint. Wear some safety glasses or spray yourself in the eyes. That's fine too. So, yeah, we're going to get the pads up in there now and just slide this back up in. Anyways, go ahead and grab a C-clamp. Me, I prefer the valve spring compressor because it's nice and big and wide to fit in there. Go ahead and tilt your wheel the other way. So we're going to have the fuck are you doing? The master cylinder. Watch your head facing up like this so we're not spilling so much fluid. Now, you're going to take the two Phillips head or whatever head screws out of here. These like to get stuck too. If they get stuck, screwdriver, tap on top of it with a hammer gently, PB blaster to get these loose. Or if you have a hand impact driver, not a fucking air impact driver, a hand impact driver. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a screwdriver that when you whack the back end of it, it's designed to create a turning impact. Anyways, we're going to get the screws out of here, open up this, put the old pads in to force the fluid back, compress the pistons in the caliper so you can stick the new ones in. Not enough room to fit them in right now. Alright, so if you see what we're doing here, the pads in front of the pistons, and we're just taking the valve spring compressor and we're going to compress. This is a dual caliper piston, so we're going to compress each piston gently with the old pad in front, letting the fluid backfill up into the reservoir so Jonathan can drink it. And once we've done that, we'll have enough room to get the pads in. After that, I mean, theoretically you'd be doing brake fluid flush or bleeding and stuff. Which we're doing, but that's going to be a separate video most likely. Alright, so now that these are both compressed flush with that, we're going to take our new pads here. Remember, these are where the pin hangers are going through. They're going to sit into the little spring-loaded piece in the back. Up here, they're going to sit into the spring-loaded piece where the pin hangers are going to pass through them. You've got this going here, and of course this is going to be facing the other way. These pads, doesn't matter which way, as long as the center is facing into the rotor. What I'd probably suggest doing is putting the pads in and getting the pin hangers through, and then seeing if you can place it onto the rotor. Otherwise the pads are probably just going to fall out. After you get the pin hanger through, tighten down, go ahead and screw in the outer cap. Make sure that's of course passed through with the pads. Once that's done, go ahead, separate your pads, make sure you got enough space. Remember, the rotor is going to place back up onto there, and then we're going to put the two 12mm bolts back in as that goes on. Alright, that's pretty much it. So what you're going to do, 12 mils, tighten them down, correct torque spec with a torque wrench. Once you've done that, you're going to put the diaphragm back in up top, the cap and your screws. Before you do that, make sure your brake fluid, of course, a lot of times if it was overfilled before, it's going to push up too much brake fluid up into the reservoir up top, and you're actually going to have to go and refill a little bit of the fluid. So once you get that back on top, the correct fluid level, go ahead, pump your brakes until your pressure reseats the pistons, push out and seat the pads up against the brake rotor. If you're going to be bleeding, which we're going to do in a separate video next, then we're just going to leave it for now. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.